Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Welcome everybody back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle channel. It is another interview today, and this one was sent to me by my good pal, Brewski Branch, down at Pro Wrestling Carnage. He picked up the phone and he said, "Adam, brother, would you like to interview one of the fastest rising stars in Wales?" And I said, "As long as it ain't you, Blanche, absolutely." And yeah, only joking, Aaron, only joking, Blanchy. We'll see you soon for sure. But we do have one of the fastest rising stars in Wales on the show. It is Mr. Dale Thomas. How are you doing?
Nice to meet you. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you very much for coming on the show and having a chat. Um, Before we get into your career and where it all started, let's just talk about the Welsh scene in particular. I went down, we were just chatting off air just now, and I went down to Slam Masters in October, back to the Banking Hall event. As I say, met one of the Bullet Club, Ace Austin from TNA, was great. But it seems as if the Welsh, they seem to do things a bit differently down there in the sense that they all try and chip in together. When I was talking to Blanche and Danny Owens from Beers and Beatdowns about the Welsh, and there's like they generally always try and chip in together rather than competing against each other. And you could see that when it was there. And it certainly makes for a better and I suppose more fairer living over in Wales doing that.
Yeah, definitely. So there is a fair number of companies in Wales now. But there's no real animosity between any of them. There's no people trying to like stab each other in the back or trying to prevent people from doing other things. Everybody sort of communicates and gets along and tries to help each other out, which is really good.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I went there and to say there was like Flash and Mandrews, and they obviously run Attack as well, which is down. They've got New Wave, which is going to. So there's a lot. There is massive amounts of you say massive amount of companies on the scene, but the actual wrestlers that are also there are amazing. The one that gets me quite a bit is Boar, Wild Boar. I see him generally. I see him at Rev Pro, but I call him like Jekyll and Hyde because when he's in the ring, you don't want to come near him. But when he's out of the ring, he's one of the nicest men you could ever meet in your life. It is crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's a good guy. Actually, years and years ago, I refed him in one of like my first refereeing jobs, and it was an experience.
It's an experience just watching him in the ring when you're watching as a fan. Because
Yeah.
he portrays well. His character's great, and what he does is great. And as I say, when you meet him, I met him at the bar at Rev Pro after, and it was just totally different guy to the one you see in the ring running at you doing cannonballs and Christ knows what else.
Yeah.
But
So he's such a nice guy. He's got such a good wrestling brain as well.
yes.
He's a good guy to like pick your brain.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that and Mandrews and Flash as well to other guys that you want to be picking brains. But let's talk about you now, Dal. And you mentioned the refereeing there. You had a refereeing gig, but let's go back a bit further than that. What got you into to wrestling and what do you something you watched as a kid?
It was something I watched as a kid. I'm actually the youngest of five brothers, so I never got a choice as a kid what was on the TV. Um, so yeah, my oldest brother, Simon Quest, don't follow Simon.
Yeah.
He got me watching it to begin with, and then it just sort of escalated from there. And then when I was a bit older, popped down to a local training school and started the journey.
And the journey began. Did you have any particular wrestlers when you was a kid that you looked up to or you model yourself onto? Now, I know you can only have one Dal Thomas, but in terms of move sets or the way you sort of present yourself in the ring?
I say was, I still am a big Hardy Boys fan when I was a kid. Like proper, in Jeff Hardy especially. I've got a Hardy Boys tattoo and everything. Like proper hardcore into the Hardy Boys. So they're like Jeff was a big influence on me as a kid. So that's probably why I do some of the stupid things that I do now.
That I've got so I had the Hardy Boys as nemesis. You probably can't see it now, you can't. I've got like the Brood tattoo on my shoulder, like the thing, and then on the back I've got the rated R star from Edge. So kind of molding differently. You had the Hardy Boys. I had not so much Christian, but I was a fan of Edge. But it was quite amazing. I mean, those TLC matches that they had just, ultimately changed the landscape of wrestling in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Just like especially like the first like two that they had, because like it'd never been done before, and you could just tell they went proper like balls to the wall for it, like and like everything that's come out of that since, like Money in the Banks, and it progresses from there really. So it's a big influence.
Yeah, they do a lot. They've created a lot of other additional matches, as you say. You mentioned Money in the Bank there. Obviously, they went ladder. They kind of done the ladder match. Then they went teal. Then they went one better. I know Brett and Sean done the first ladder match, or Brett and Scott Hall actually done the first ladder match that wasn't televised. But then it went on, as you say, they then created these new, wackier, more ways to hurt yourself in wrestling than you could ever imagine, like a big spear off the top of a ladder whilst you're holding on to the title, and God knows what else that they do. But when you first went to the wrestling school, how did you first find those initial few weeks that you was in there learning, the roles and the bumps?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie and say it was easy to begin with, because it most definitely wasn't. Bumps are never fun to begin with. But it's one of those things you sort of get used to. Ropes was a big thing that I didn't realize would hurt as much as it does, or well, you like it does.
Yeah.
So that was quite a hard thing to learn, and it's like, to an extent, it's almost like learning to walk again, because there's so many tiny little things that you don't realize, like just basics like footwork and things like that you'd never even think of. You never notice just watching as a fan until you actually step in and do it. You realize there's so much more to it than just getting in and just throwing people about. Like,
Yeah, no, there is. I mean, as you say, the footwork, yeah, running the ropes for me was another one that I couldn't. Yeah, you say you get like whiplash marks on you back, and you see it if you watching the events if you watch the events when you go there and you actually see when they hit the ropes, they automatically get this big red mark across the back. Your first ever match in front of a crowd, how was that for you? For the first time, music hits, you walk out.
what for me, my first real match, I didn't actually get an entrance. It was a big heel beatdown, and all the baby faces come out to make a save, and it turned into an impromptu match. So I think, if anything, that probably helped me with nerves and things like that, because I had a lot of other people there with me to begin with, and it wasn't just like as soon as I walk out, everybody's staring at me straight away. So I think that helped quite a bit. I was wrestling Jay Joshua, who's a great guy. So he looked after me as well, which was great. But yeah, definitely nerve wracking to start with, but once you get into it, you like nerves start to settle and you start to get into it a little bit. But yes, it was probably it was a hard thing to do when I first did it, 'cause obviously something I've never actually done before on that level. But it's one of them, you got to get chucked in the deep end sometimes, I suppose.
Yeah, can't think of any harder hitter than Jay Joshua. He's put in there with his chops echo around like Gunter's. I've not had first-hand experience, but I was sitting at the front row recently at a show when he was at, and did he? Does he like a chop? Does he like
Oh,
a? He certainly does. His music's great, though, and so's the deep
oh
heat
yeah,
smell that you can smell. He sprays a lot of deep.
hot stuff.
Come up the stairs at a show, you're just like, whoa, what is this? And it's a big smell of deep heat, which my girlfriend actually loved the smell of it, so she was like sniffing him, which is quite funny. But we'll go back and we'll do a couple of some wrestling questions now, a little bit out the little bit right. Say what was the word of it? A little bit left field. That's the word. So you mentioned your favorites, Jeff Hardy, but what about
Yeah.
the entrance music? What's your favorite entrance music?
Oh, well, I was a big Alter Bridge fan when I
Yeah.
was a kid. Before Edge started using them, I sort of like it was Metalingus is off their first album, so I was they sort of all came together sort of the same time. So Edge has got a great song. Punk's got a good song. Trying to think what other songs I like. So it's proper like I don't think anyone's ever asked me about the music side of things before.
Oh, we asked all of the wrestlers about it, and it stumps so many of them.
Yeah, it's like music. I never really thought about it. I think I like Jeff Hardy's singles music as well with the lyrics. That's another
Oh,
really
what?
good
No
one.
More Words? Was it?
Yeah,
Yeah, the one that he sung. Yeah.
yeah. Wait, he did a cover. He didn't
He did
sing
a cover. That's it.
one
He
of
did a
the
cover of it. Yes, sorry. Yes, that's right. He didn't sing it. He done the cover.
any company with sense won't let Jeff sing his own songs.
Definitely. Well, I'll say definitely not, but I don't know. He does. He's okay. Yeah, he's better than me at singing. But then
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
not difficult to be fair. Here's another one, a bit more left field. If you could debut at any pay-per-view, what one would it be?
Probably the Rumble. It's probably the cop out answer, but it's just the best one, isn't it?
It's the most unpredictable one, unless you want the grand
Yeah.
entrance.
No, I like a good Rumble surprise, so I'd probably go with Rumble.
Oh, I love the Royal Rumble is my favorite pay-per-view. I love the Royal
Oh, I
Rumble.
love a Rumble.
It is amazing. This year's one was slightly disappointing. The men's one, the women's one was decent.
See, I don't think it was disappointing. I think everybody just set their expectations too high.
Probably right. I think that is. I think a lot of people were thinking about someone. But someone called Dwayne coming out at some point.
Yeah,
On,
Max.
on that. Interestingly, before we get back to what are you making about the whole thing with Cody and The Rock and stories and Christ knows what else?
I feel like if they don't pull the trigger on Cody now, they've just wasted 2 years.
Mm.
In my honest opinion, and it's just a repeat of what they've done before.
Yeah,
where they've just brought in an old name to sell some tickets.
They don't even need to sell any more tickets.
No, they don't. No, they don't need to do it. And at the end of the day, you got to reward the guys that are there all the time.
Yeah, I used to, that's what I used to say like 10 years ago when they brought like Lesnar back and people like that. And I love Brock anyway. But before he got erased from the WWE, I like Brock. I thought he was great, but I agree that the people that sort of bust their balls every night for every 50 odd weeks of the year that they're on the road deserve that opportunity when it comes to it. Granted, they're going to bring in some stars because it is the biggest show of the year, but I think there should be a limit to that. So I think though I still kind of want Mania to go off the air with Roman holding the belt just because that's going to piss everyone off.
Yes, it would.
Going back to you now, you mentioned Jeff's been one of your heroes. If you could have a triple threat match with three wrestlers, past, present, or who would they be?
Do I have to be in it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right. I'd put Jeff in there for my childhood dream, and probably Osprey.
Osprey. Interesting. Yeah. Just about to get onto that because we're going to Rev Pro this weekend with Osprey's last show before he obviously heads off to last independent show for now before he heads off to AEW. There has been a massive intake this year of sort of British wrestlers going over to the TNA, got Xia Brookside, Trent Seven. I think Damo was there recently as well. Slater. Yeah, I think so. I think I heard that myself. Xia Brookside. Will obviously going over to AEW. And obviously sporadically there's been a lot more. There is a lot more in it now. You got the Finn Balor's and people like that. But does this, if you're on the independent scene now and you're seeing these companies actually obviously taking an interest and they're bringing some of their stars over to do independent shows, like I've mentioned Bullet Club, Ace Austin from TNA come over to Slam Masters. Does that give people in the UK now bigger sort of an opportunity to say, well, they are watching us now, so we've got a chance to make it over there if we get noticed?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think over the past 5 or so years, the UK scene's definitely been taken notice of a lot more. NXT UK was a thing for a bit until COVID and things like that and everything else. And then obviously a lot more British talent are getting signed and stuff now. And like going back and forth, like Subculture are going over all the time. Leon Slater's just been signed. Like you said, Zaya's over there. You got loads of guys who were in NXT UK that are being shipped over to America. So I definitely think the eyes are on the Brits at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. It must be quite exciting wrestling on the UK scene now, knowing this. Well, we obviously had a few years where it wasn't so much, but as I said, now this just had this big influx. So it must be exciting for wrestlers like yourselves wrestling on this scene, thinking there isn't this is not beyond the realms of impossibility.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially when you see guys that you like, or that you've worked with going over there and doing great things
Yeah.
as well. Like I'm quite good mates with Zaya. I've done shows with Leon Slater. Obviously like Subculture are going over there a lot, part of the Welsh scene again. So it's definitely like I wouldn't say I wouldn't say fills you with hope, but it definitely gives you like a sense of like you've got something to push towards.
Yeah. There's optimism there that perhaps wasn't there 3 or 4, 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing who's going over next. I'm keep waiting. I'm keep waiting to see more names because the scene at the moment, and I've only been really we're doing this podcast a year, maybe just over a year now. Yeah, just over a year because we had Vince Russo on as our first guest about a year ago, near enough, because it flashed up on my social medias. But the talent is absolutely ridiculous over here, ridiculously good. I could reel off names like I'm blue in the face. I mean, actually, one of them's James Ellis, and I'm going to get to him in a minute. But someone like him, who I've seen a couple of times, and I saw him at Slam Masters, and one of the names that immediately come to my head, but even by just him walking to the ring and getting in, and then when I saw him wrestle was Kurt Hennig, Mr.
Yeah.
Perfect. It just he has that, I don't know, bit of arrogance, which is nice, but not too much. But just enough. But he just has that presence, the way he walks in. I keep thinking because Blanche was his manager, and I was thinking, there's Bobby Heenan, a slimmer version of Bobby Heenan, a
Oh,
bit taller. um, but even someone like James Ellis, who I think he may have even gone to gut check. I think he did do the TNA gut check
yeah, he did.
last year.
Yeah.
But there's people like him who are just there's stars there waiting to happen.
Oh, definitely. Like Ellis is, I think Ellis is brilliant. I actually worked Ellis for Pro Wrestling Carnage yesterday.
Yep.
Great fun, good worker, great guy. He's proper getting out there at the minute as well. Like he's everywhere at the minute.
He is everywhere. He is also a champion as well. I think at IW. I think is he the Carnage champion, or is he a champion in Carnage, or he's a champion, isn't he?
He's Pro Wrestling Carnage champion. He's
Yes.
IWN
That's the one.
champion.
That's the one.
He up until a couple of months ago, he was champion at No Mercy.
Yeah.
First ever New Wave champion. Chaos tag champion. Exposure tag champion. And that was all in the last 12 months.
And he gets a great opportunity on the 21st of the bring me great way to bring me into this. He could add another title to his entourage on the 21st of April. He will be coming over to Ignite Wrestling Pro to take on our champion, the Hitting the Turnbuckle champion, Smashing Mike. You will see in James's video that he's posted with the manager himself. Mr. Blanche, who will also be gracing us with his presence. So he will get an opportunity to obtain some more gold, but I'm not quite sure. Well, if I wanted to give James Ellis a bit of advice, it was go back to when you fought Dries at Slam Masters, and that's the charisma levels that you're dealing with, my boy. So be prepared for a lot of charisma when you take on Smashing Mike. But another name I wanted to throw at you quickly, Dal, was another name that we recently had at Ignite, and the feedback from the wrestlers were they've never learned so much from somebody, and that was Eddie Dennis. I couldn't get over how bloody tall he was for a start.
He's unbelievably cool.
It could, yeah, I think he had to duck to get out of the entranceway. I think it was close, but he was in the ring with them a lot of the time. He was watching them do, going through the motions at the start. He was the sort of co-main event, so he went on just before the interval, and in the second half he come out, sat down at the back and watched the rest of the show. And people were asking advice. His opponent Mike beat him during that show, and he was saying that he's never learned so much from someone in the space of a few hours. But that's also kind of what does go into raise what type of guy that he is as well, because he wants to give back and give advice. And the match that they had was very much a WWE way. You could tell Eddie had been in the WWE, the way he's working. But again, someone that gives advice like that, you can't not have someone like him turn up and not go for him for advice.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with Eddie Dennis, I'm fairly certain he was a teacher at one point.
Okay.
So obviously he's just got that natural ability to be able to pass on wisdom. And obviously there's a reason he's being booked for so many seminars at the minute.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a wealth of knowledge and one of the nicest guys. Well, and he's got great merch. I bought one of his shirts, loved it. I should have worn it for this one actually, but it's upstairs somewhere, but I didn't get an opportunity. As we start to wrap up now, Dal, what are your aspirations? I mean, you're obviously doing a lot of stuff in Wales at the moment. Is it people that you want to branch out over to into a bit more of the UK a bit? What do you want to be doing in 2024?
Well, obviously, I got a fair amount of stuff going on in Wales, but there's a lot more I could be doing in Wales, and I'm going to try my hardest to get over there. There's a lot of the southwest where I'm based, where I haven't touched boots on the canvas yet, which I'd like to do as well. And then I've done some bits like further south down in Cornwall, so I'd like to move slightly further over towards like London way, things like that. New scene, get my face out there.
Boreham Wood, Ignite.
Well, if there's a space there, if you need a challenger.
We certainly we're definitely going to have some challenges coming up for the title, but I'll Chris, CJ, if you're watching, another one who wants to come on board and trust away. You're saying Cornwall. I've got family living. I'm going to Cornwall in a few weeks to see my family. They live down in Cornwall. Just as a side note. But as we start to wrap up now, Dal, tell people where can they find you on social media? If you're available for bookings, how can they contact you? If you've got merch to sell, where can they get it?
Right, okay. So Instagram and TikTok at Dale.Junior, and on Twitter or X, whatever they want to call it nowadays, at Dale JNR _PW. Dale Johnson Wrestler on Facebook. You can get my merch at dalejohnson.bigcartel.com, and DM any of my social medias for any booking inquiries.
There you go, everyone. Definitely get on there. Get to see Dow as one of the fastest rising stars in the Welsh scene. Definitely someone who you'd need to have on your shows. I'm going to bore you for a bit now, Dow, because I've got to let you know what we've got coming up. So apologies.
Oh, it's never boring.
On that. It certainly will be for you because there's quite a few coming up. We need to thank ODB for coming on. She come on at the back end of last week. Slam Masters as well come on as well. So big thanks to them and good luck at your Back to the Banking Hall free show. Coming up though, very, very soon, we're going to be talking to the artist formerly known as Heath Slater. He will be coming on to talk all things Heath.
Yeah.
All things Heath, or whatever you want to call it, wherever he calls himself nowadays. And also coming up, we've got an interview with another big rising star in the UK for Revolution Pro Wrestling, David Francesco. Obviously, we catch us at Ignite as well on the April the 21st. Smashing Mike goes one-on-one with Mr. Brilliance himself, James Ellis, and who knows what shenanigans Brewski Blanche. Yeah, there you go. Will show will be who knows what shenanigans Brewski Blanche will put it on we may have to have the referee to have a few more eyes and a few more ears for that one. But also, as we've already announced, we're bringing back Buckle Up, our sponsored show with Ignite. There is going to be some huge names of British wrestling there. I can't tell you right now. I can tell Dow in a minute when we come off air who he gets a little bit of a sneaky look. But don't forget, guys, get Dow on your show. Any promotions out there want to try out some new talent across the UK? There's one right there to my left as I'm talking to right now. He's someone that you need on your shows. But for everybody else, you catch us on HTT Buckle on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on all other social media platforms. Dow, thank you so much for your time. It's great talking to you. Good luck in 2024. Hopefully, I'll see you on a show real soon.
Hopefully. Thank you for having me, sir.
No problem at all. Guys, this has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. He has been Dow Thomas. I have been your host, Adam Cousins. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.